Hello everyone, and welcome once again to the Heir's Lair. I'm your host, Jonathan Taylor. For today's video, as the title may have already given away, I am once again doing a book review. And given this is the last video of the summer months, I thought I would end it with a little bit more flair, a little bit more pizzazz. And in order to do so, I decided to review one of those books that really needs no introduction. However, I will still give it one because, it benefits the review if I do so. And that book is The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. It should be noted here that prince doesn't mean the son of the king, but rather it means the leader of a principality. Whatever other title he has, and however that principality is defined. The earliest treatise on realpolitik, written centuries before that, before that term was officially, officially came into existence. This book came out in a particularly interesting time in the history of the Italian peninsula. Since the fall of the Roman Empire, or after the fall of the Roman Empire, that particular part of Europe has been somewhat of a chaotic political mess with a common cultural background. However, shortly before the release of this book, it started to be targeted by its neighbors for conquest, and that caused a little bit of a panic. It is fair to say, among the various kingdoms and regions that the peninsula was split between. A particular panic that this book has been written in response to. It's fair to say. Whether that response is actually useful or if it is even genuine has been debated for basically ever since this book was not released but widely released. And yes, there is a difference between those. And that debate regarding its intentions has since gone on to pretty much has since gone on to overtake basically any other discussion about this book, aside from its basic premise. And while that could be argued to be the case because because the text is no longer no longer has a and is no longer directly relevant, I still wanted to go through the book myself and find out if that is the case. The summary of my impressions is, while I understand what it is that makes this book meaningful from a historical perspective, it is fair to say that there are plenty more books that are both more informative and more engaging that are written about similar topics as this book. And by similar, I don't just mean broadly similar. I even mean very similar. Like they could be like there are books that talk directly about the things that this book references that approach those references in a in a better, more interesting way. though it might be a little bit drier. I have to say. Um, this book, nevertheless, this book still has plenty of interesting ways in which it manipulates its text, and the manners in which it pulls its in which it pulls and presents its content in such a way as to make for a particularly engaging reading experience. So if you are interested in this book for its reputation, it is likely you will enjoy reading through it as well. And now that I'm done with the broad impressions, it's time I delved a little bit into some specifics. I wanted to start by saying the plot of this book. Anyway, this book was released in 1513 and dedicated to the, at the time, freshly minted Duke of Florence, Lorenzo de' Medici. It was actually, it was actually in development for quite a while, so it was initially dedicated to his, predecessor, the previous Duke of Florence. And because it has this specific focus, it reads less like an academic text and more like a speech or an essay that the author is trying to make. I think he has some level of awareness of the background that his audience would have, and is therefore tailoring the uh, content of this book in such a way as to more effectively, more directly connect to his audience. And that is not the only way in which he does that. He also skips away with a lot of stylistic formalities that would normally accompany a text such as this one, making it come across less like an academic treatise on on political theory, and more like a smartass, the author himself, just shooting in a breeze on a topic he happens to be very knowledgeable about. And to be fair, Machiavelli is actually pretty knowledgeable about the things that he is describing within his book, given that he was a diplomat and an administrator before he started writing it. And as such, a lot of the contemporary for the time references that he employs over the course of this book are things that he personally will have either witnessed or would have had to clean up after. The second half of the references relate more to the antiquity and to various people, places, and events that would have been directly relevant at that time. I'm pretty sure that he had to read about or learn about. I doubt he was there to witness it for a variety of reasons. While this book is perhaps less formal than a text like this could have been at the time, it is nevertheless not irreverent. There are still, Machiavelli still pays plenty of care when it comes to how he presents his arguments and how he builds towards his conclusions. And those efforts, while he is very effective at how to encapsulate them within the various chapters, they can still carry through in some particularly intriguing directions. And of note here is the 3-chapter-long screed that he basically has against employing mercenaries, and also the definitions of the various principalities that he would be talking about, and the definitions of the various power blocks or influence groups that he describes a prince, a leader of a principality, having to consider whenever making any kind of leadership decision. Those aspects of this book are interesting to read through, but I think a modern audience would not really get anything out of those parts of the book, given just how much of a game changer the nation state has become within politics, and how that ultimately ended up changing or shifting, so to speak, the various power groups that are to be considered within a contemporary society. And I have to say that is the most fortunate way in which this book is showing its age. Like seriously, it is a good thing that this is the main discussion point about it. While I think that the arguments of this book are well written, but don't necessarily hold up for modern context, the conclusion the book reaches is surprisingly still quite applicable to modern day politics. And becomes that much more surprising once you consider the once you consider the reputation this book has. But then again, given the differences given the differences in politics between the day the book was, the days this book was written in, and and the modern political climate, I think it is fair to say that the reception of this book, or at least its initial reception, says a lot more about the times when it was released rather than the book itself. Overall, while even though the worst people use this book for self-help reasons, this this early treatise on modern political theory represents a very interesting approach when it comes to investigating the topic it delves into from a scientific perspective. My final rating for The Prince is a 3 out of 5. And yeah, that was my review. Thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed it, well then please like the video, maybe even share it wherever you think other people will also like the video. If there is anything you'd like to add, either to the book itself or to my review of it, that's what the comment section is for. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe. And ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. My books, the first of my own Heir to the Empire series, The Next Generation on the Path Not Taken, are available at various book retailers under their respective master links in the description down below, right past my social media links, which I also suggest you check out should you choose to. I also have a second channel where you can hear me talking about whatever crosses my mind, though it'll typically still be related to narrative analyses, but of works outside of the print medium. So if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and check it out. If, however, you want to hear more about my thoughts on the print medium and selected works therein, well then, I suggest you go for the backlog of this channel, where you'll find lots of book reviews, lots of writing advice, and occasionally some different kinds of content, but still connected to those topics. If that doesn't interest you, either, then feel free to do whatever you want the rest of your day, because it is your day after all. And yeah, that was it for me. So until next time, I am Jonathan Taylor, and this has been The Heir's Lair.